In the recent seasons, I've been known for my love and affinity towards weapons like pulse rifles, sidearms, SMGs, and I put 5,000 kills on that Plug 1 last season as well. It's certainly led some folks to question if I have something against hand cannons and shotguns. It certainly doesn't help that in the recent weeks, I've asked people in the community to maybe pump the brakes on the knee-jerk response to main ingredient being popular. I think maybe we need more than just one singular weekend on a tiny map before we pass judgment on it. Maybe we need to see where it goes. And I'm not here to talk about that again or unpack my thoughts on that. I do talk about that in my recent meta assessment video if you want to hear me flesh that out. But I'm going to take a moment today instead to answer the questions of if I have something against hand cannons and shotguns or if I have a chip on my shoulder against them. But first, a quick shout out to the sponsor of this video, Manscaped. Alright dude, so imagine this for me. You're going on a date and you go to pick this woman up in a car that you washed inside and out. It's looking clean and she's thinking, alright, I'm impressed. And then she sees that you got a nice outfit on. She's thinking, alright, I'm impressed. He's nice and clean. He's well shaved. He did his hair. He's looking pretty good. And you know what? You knew this date was coming. You've been working out and you're taking care of your body and you're looking good. And she's setting expectations. You take her to a nice restaurant and she's thinking, all right, I'm impressed. But then when things escalate, you did not take care of yourself on all fronts. And you were setting expectations this whole time that you cared and that you would take care of yourself. And the one place that you were slacking is in your hygiene. And that's not good. You set expectations and you did not deliver. It's time to deliver. But good news. Manscaped has you covered. If you go to manscaped.com, you're going to see something called the Perfect Package 4.0. Let me tell you about what you can get inside the Perfect Package. I've talked about it several times here on my channel. The very first thing you're going to get is the Lawnmower 4.0. Okay, now this is skin-safe technology, and this is for cleaning up anything in your undercarriage that's overgrown. You want to make sure that it's all taken care of because long hair traps oils and odors, and you don't want that. You don't want that, trust me. But you can see no nicks, no cuts. It is skin-safe technology. It's got a light on the front that helps illuminate the area that you're going to be shaving, which you might not think is important until you use it, and then you're like, holy cow, how did I ever get by without this thing? Easy peasy. The next thing you're going to get is the Weed Whacker. This is a nose hair trimmer, ear hair trimmer, and the thing about this is you get no tugging, no pulling, all right? It's not going to do any of that, so it's nice and easy. I'll take care of all that stuff because nose hair is gross. I'm going to be real with you. Nose hair is gross. That's how shooting at your face holes. That's not a good way to make a good impression. Next thing you're going to get in the Perfect Package 4.0 is the Crop Preserver. This is your ball deodorant. It goes on at the beginning of the day or whenever you're getting out of the shower, all that stuff. And that's great. But then later in the day, you might need a refreshing spritz on the go. And because, life is unpredictable. Okay? And you got the Crop Reviver for that. Little refreshing spritz later in the day. Next thing you're going to get is a pair of anti-chafe boxers. And you're also going to get the Shed, which is a little travel bag. Keep everything in. I keep this right on the shelf in the bathroom. It's got everything I need in it. Right in there, in one spot. No clutter. And then anytime I'm traveling, it all goes in that bag. It's a great little bag. They got all your bases covered in one spot. I'm telling you guys. So check out manscaped.com. Use the links in the description to take you there. Use code Vanguard20. You get 20% off your order and free shipping, even international. All right, let's get back to Destiny. Okay, so do I have something against hand cannons and shotguns? The answer to that question is unequivocally no. If you were to pull up my Crucible report, you notice a few key things. First, it's no surprise that I have the most kills with sidearms. I'm a lover of sidearms. I always have been since they came out in Destiny 1. I find them to be fun and dynamic and exciting, and they pair well with a lot of different things like snipers and pulses and scouts. So those are on top for me. But the very next thing on my list of weapon types responsible for the most kills for me personally is hand cannons. I love using hand cannons. I've gone through several phases of maining hand cannons in Destiny 2. I went through a phase where I mained Sunshot. I went through a phase where I mained Minuet. I went through a phase where I mained The Last Word for a little while. I went through a phase where I mained the Criminal's Dagger.
Not good.
So I've got over 56,000 hand cannon kills in this game. I was called a special weapon Crutcher multiple times this weekend due to my opinions on fusions in the current meta. And the irony is that some of the loudest people saying that when I checked their Crucible reports, because I think it's important to understand where people are coming from. It's not necessarily to call them out, but it's important to understand their point of reference. But I checked their Crucible reports. Some of the loudest criticizers calling me a special weapon crutch were people who had more kills with shotguns than any other weapon type in the game, including their primaries. And even another content creator who adamantly disagreed with me had several thousand more kills with shotguns than any other weapon type in the game. And that isn't criticism of anyone's playstyle. It's just to point out the irony that people who are outspoken against special weapon usage are often very guilty of the same thing, just with a different type of special weapon. And the irony there is not lost on me. I'm very proud of the fact that I have more kills with 3 different types of primary weapons than I do with any special weapon type in the game. But yes, I do thoroughly enjoy using hand cannons and shotguns. Just this week, I had a 24-0 game of Iron Banner, just straight up beelining through people with a shotgun on rusted lands. And regardless of how you feel about shotguns, that's fun, you know, and you'll see some of that gameplay in this video. I had a 27-0 match of Showdown with a hand cannon and shotty, and that's in here too. And just yesterday in Iron Banner, I was playing with D Flawless. We matched against a 4-stack of great players on Eternity, all running mainstream hand cannons and shotguns. And I dropped an 18 kill streak and almost 40 kills that match. Now, I'm not listing these things to brag or to boast. I say them to reinforce the fact that I don't have a chip on my shoulder against this playstyle. I know it well. I embrace it often. It's not my main way of playing the game, and it's not my favorite way of playing Destiny. But I see Destiny as more of a complex game of rock, paper, scissors, and I don't want to be someone who only mains rock, right? And will always play rock, regardless of what place I'm in or what I'm playing against. I always play rock, because if I do that, then when someone who mains paper comes along, I'm going to be completely and utterly screwed. I have to make sure that I can adapt and be comfortable with different loadouts and approaches if I want to be the best version of myself in-game as possible. And I often find that people who really stick to their guns and they main a very, very specific thing, they will always complain about the thing that counters them. They don't want to have to change up their playstyle. They come from a point of view where they say, I main rock, I play rock. And since that's my favorite way to play the game, paper is busted. It's broken, it needs nerfed. Bungie needs to take a look at it. Anybody who uses paper is a scrub, and I hate them, and they're terrible at the game, and they have no talent, you know what I'm saying? And they come up with all of these reasons to hate on paper, when the reality is that they are so ingrained with maining rock that they can't see the bigger picture. And so I try to take a much more broad and wider approach to the game. In fact, you'll notice that all of my the mainstream special weapons, fusion rifles, shotguns, and sniper rifles, for me personally, are all within a few thousand kills of each other. They're not that far apart. I use them all very regularly. But I'm going to keep it real. I do have a preference, and I think most of us do. My preference is to play burst fire weapons for most engagements and gun duels. I have more kills with hand cannons and pulse rifles because of things like, you know, map design and the fact that hand cannons, they count clear misses as hits and headshots very frequently, and they're more forgiving than pulse rifles, but pulse rifles are my favorite primaries. Part of that has to do with the fact that my competitive gaming origin story really was me coming out of a bunch of Combat Evolved tournaments in high school and going straight into Halo 3's ranked environment in college, where BR skill was it was one of the most important aspects of your game. If you couldn't handle moving and strafing while simultaneously keeping your reticle tracking the head of your opponent, then you were toast. No amount of movement and positioning skill was going to offset your bad shot in that game. You had to be the total package if you were going to rank up in the MLG playlist and in Team Slayer. A player who couldn't think as a team player and also couldn't handle a BR well was going to plateau in the high 30s, low 40s at best. So considering where I come from, it's no surprise that when Bungie, the same gaming developer, ships a new game with pulse rifles in it, I'm probably going to vibe really well with pulse rifles. They just kind of feel like, coming home. They're like a familiar feeling that I've grown comfortable with throughout literal, decades of my life. I mean, I was using the BR when I was in college. I'm now married with 2 kids and a dog and a minivan, and I like to kayak at 5 in the morning and watch the sun rise over the lake before I get home and get the kids up and ready for school. I mean, the honest reality is that sometimes people in completely different phases of life like to hold other people to their unique set of standards. And that young crowd, they love hand cannons and shotguns. It's the power fantasy of the big chunk damage in one trigger pull while moving erratically around the map in creative ways. And that's awesome. I love when people perfect their craft. I love that. But the pace of my life is very different than the pace of their lives. I used to drive like an idiot and get tickets for speeding frequently, but I haven't been pulled over in years and I'm not in a rush anymore. If the road is wet, I'm going 5 under the speed limit and I don't care. So, there it is. Maybe a little more introspective than you might have expected, but I wanted to sort of clear the air. I know a lot of people have this stigma about me that I hate hand cannons and I hate shotguns. And they think that I think they should be nerfed into the ground. And truthfully, I have campaigned against very specific outliers in those categories before, like the oppressiveness of some 120 hand cannons when they were buffed, or the Felwinter's Lie, which made almost every other shotgun in the game unusable because they just couldn't keep up with the consistency, the draw speed, and the range. But to be fair, I also campaigned against Aaron Till because of similar reasons. I said it couldn't have all the pros and no cons, which was my argument for Felwinter's Lie. Aaron Till was hitting hard at crazy range with little recoil and could be fired at the speed of a rapid fire frame fusion. And I said, let's keep the range and impact, sure, but the trade-off has to be that the charge time is a long commitment. And that was the same argument, the exact same argument I made for Felwinter's Lie. I said, let it keep its range, let it keep its impact. But it can't have the total package. It can't be drawn like a lightweight frame shotgun. That has to be the trade-off, is it needs to be heavier and more sluggish. So I made similar arguments about Telesto. I just want Destiny to be an environment where you get to choose what you like to run. I don't want the game trying to force your hand by only giving you one real option and everything else being a clear step down. And I know that's a really hard balance to strike, and I respect that. On Bungie's side, I don't envy them. So I'll continue to look for outliers that might break that balance, no matter what form they take. And thank you so much for watching the video, for supporting my channel. Feel free to subscribe for additional Destiny 2 content. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the Crucible.